So now we are going to turn it over to Dan Rubins, who is going to share some more curriculum with us. But first, let's take a moment to enjoy this video from Met Opera Summer Camper. They're in the house today. It's Ben from Kansas City.
Hi, I'm Ben, and I'm from Kansas City, Missouri. I'm here to tell you some exciting things about Gounod's opera, Romeo et Juliette.
Her chariot is an empty hazelnut.
I love how the soliloquies are turned into arias. I love the way the streets of Verona are transformed throughout the opera into the Capulets' masquerade ball, Friar Lawrence's cell, and Juliet's chamber. Spoiler alert, if you don't know how this story ends, cover your ears. I really love that Gounod changes the scene, the tune, so that when Juliet wakes up, Romeo is still alive, and they can sing a final duet. P.S. Who doesn't love a good wheelbarrow guy? Romeo et Juliette is a beautiful opera. I hope you enjoy it as much as I do.
Oh, that was wonderful, Ben. Thank you so much for that wonderful video. And it's an honor to have you present with us to watch that video. And now, as promised, sharing some Romeo and Juliet curriculum, let's turn it over to Dan Rubins. Dan, take it away.
Thank you so much, Susan. It's great to see many of you again. And as I screen share this, I just want to say also quick shout outs. It's so humbling to follow Dr. Callahan. I did a master's in Shakespeare studies, so it's like humbling to even be on a Zoom with Dr. Callahan, let alone to follow her. So that's so exciting. And also to Ben from Kansas City, I remember your amazing aria that you wrote about your cat Nix over the summer, and it's amazing to see that you're still engaged and still a fan of the wheelbarrow guy, which we all know is the most important part of the opera. So I'm going to be speaking a little bit about a lesson plan to engage both with the plot and this question of fate and free will, and what I think was really touched on in that talk just before this about this question of could Romeo and Juliet have gone a different way? Is there this potential for a happy ending, a comedic turn, and letting students kind of take the reins on that and think about what other routes could this go? So we start out both in the prologue of the play and the opera with this language about star-crossed lovers in the translation on the opera. We have dreadful fate, unlucky lovers. So there's this idea of sort of omniscient voices telling us this was doomed from the start. The families, it's even like out of their control. This is something that could not be avoided. But we also have, as Dr. Callahan talked about, these incredibly strong-willed characters, especially Juliet, who seem to really claim ownership over their destinies up until the last moment. So what students can do first off is sort of muse over what this information means that's given to us in the prologue, what role star-crossed fate has, and then to turn to sort of all the bad decisions that are made along the way and to think about sort of what are the worst decisions that characters make that precipitate these deaths that lead characters toward this tragic ending, both by sort of looking through the synopsis, but also, I think, turning to one scene from the opera that's sort of an obvious one full of potentially bad decisions is this fight scene that culminates in the deaths of Mercutio and Tybalt. So students can watch this and even count or write down or record in some way what are the bad decisions that characters make as they sing, as they act in the staging of this particular production, how are those represented, and then to think about sort of what decisions in this scene or throughout the whole opera might be averted or avoided to change potentially what happens next. So then stage 2 is for students to pick their favorite bad decision. So thinking about the actions that characters take, the choices that characters make that lead to this tragic ending, to pick one decision that a character makes and imagine what might happen if that character made a different decision, if they asserted their free will in that moment. So perhaps Friar Lawrence says, actually, I think it's a terrible idea for you guys to get married. I'm not going to perform this ceremony. Or for Romeo to say, I'm going to control myself. I'm not going to avenge Mercutio's death. We're gonna resolve this a different way. To think about if those things had happened, or another decision that a student comes up with, how might that have changed what happens at the end of this opera or this play? So to think about, as they brainstorm these ideas, how might other characters react? Is this change that might happen in the plot big enough to affect the opera's ending? And to go back to what was just discussed, this question of genre, is it enough to change Romeo and Juliet from a tragedy into a comedy? Midsummer Night's Dream was brought up as an example. I was also thinking about Much Ado About Nothing is a comedy that comes so close to potentially being tragedy. And it's really not until that final moment that it's too late. So this is going to culminate sort of creatively in this project by students creating, in whatever art form or form of expression they want, a new story that sort of shows this new adventure, this fork in the road, and takes us through to the ending. So this, at the end of my quick lesson, Dan is going to play this video from the summer that a student created during Met Opera Camp when this assignment was offered. And this is sort of answering the question in this sort of stop motion animation video, what would happen if in that last scene, Romeo had just waited like 5 more minutes and checked Juliet's pulse really carefully, and how might that have affected the ending? So this is sort of maybe the single worst decision made in the play or the opera on Romeo's part. If he had made a different decision, how might things have turned out? And students can really explore this in sort of any art form, whatever makes sense to them, to sort of follow the plot through and think really carefully about how each decision of each character along the way really impacts what happens next. And then if students want to dig a little deeper, included in this lesson plan is an article from The Atlantic that's thinking about free will in sort of contemporary scientific terms and the impact of nature and nurture, the idea that who you are physiologically and how you're raised can predetermine your actions. So to have students really reflect both on the play and the opera and on themselves, do they believe in the power of fate? Do they believe in the power of free will? Where do they fall on that spectrum? And perhaps engage in debate with classmates about that after they consider these arguments here. And then finally, a way to engage sort of more broadly in the literature around this question of fate and free will, to think about other Shakespeare plays that engage with fate, sort of most prominently Macbeth, and the idea of these 3 witches' prophecies sort of shaping his actions. And then on the opera side, in Carmen as one example, where she believes that the cards that she reads in her fortune-telling predetermine her doom. And to think both about how in each of these pieces, Macbeth and Carmen and Romeo and Juliet, to what extent do the characters believe that they have control over their fates? To what extent do they believe that they have free will? And then on the other side, to what extent do the authors or the composers or librettists believe that about their characters? Does Shakespeare share Macbeth's belief that he is being sort of predetermined by these prophecies? And what do they want the audiences to believe about these characters' control? So that's, in a nutshell, one way that students can engage. You're welcome to send me any questions on that. I'll also give a very quick shout out. I was last here as a 4th grade teacher. I'm now full-time the executive director of Hear Your Song, which is a nonprofit that empowers children and teens with serious illnesses to make their voices heard through collaborative songwriting. So please check out our website if you want to learn more about my work in that area. So I think now Dan's going to screen share this quick video of an example of something a camper did with this project over the summer. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Dan Rubins. That was wonderful. And I also just want to double click and highlight hearyoursong.org. Congratulations on your position. I cannot wait to check that out. That's such a great, it just sounds great. That mission sounds amazing. So thank you so much. And thank you for being here.
My pleasure.